we pitch a lot for work and you never get paid. So years ago, Nando's came to us and they said, we want you to pitch, but we're going to pay you £5,000. I was like, £5,000? Whoop. So I bought 2 tickets to Mozambique, took myself and a filmmaker there, and we made a film about the history of pari pari sauce. And we went back and gave them that as the pitch. We lost the pitch, but they said, can we buy the film off you as a training video for staff? So we made 20 grand on the film. So my name's Stu Watson. I'm from Bolton and I am an NTU graduate. I also did a BTEC in graphic design, and I run a company called Nomad in London, which is a branding agency that kind of specialises in sport, media and entertainment. So Nomad is 7 or 8 years old, and it started with this idea of being a nomad, like no office, no employees, just this idea of going wherever the work is. And one of our first projects was Sky Sports, and we had employees, but we went into Sky Creative for 8 months and did that job because it's really complicated and technical. So we kind of evolved that idea, but we have loads of great talent with us. We're about 25 people. And we've developed this kind of like deep sporting knowledge through our work with Premier League and Sky Sports and No Room for Racism and stuff like that. But also do a lot of entertainment, so we do Sky and Disney and Hey You. And then we've just rebranded the Natural History Museum, which doesn't quite fit in either camp, but it's kind of fun.
Speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we work a lot with the Premier League. That's been a client of ours since the beginning of Nomad stuff. But some of the bigger projects we get, like No Room for Racism, was great. So the brief was a kind of anti-racism campaign. So we came up with the name No Room for Racism. We came up with the mechanic of the motion that crushes all the space out the letters. So it's like the metaphor for having no room for racism. And then with the ad agency, we built campaigns over the past few years, so we evolve it each time. We do long form storytelling, short form messaging. We put a bit more meat on the bones in recent years of what happens if you are caught being racist or any kind of discrimination. And that's really important as well, that you don't just talk about it, but there's consequence and action as well. So that runs into brand identity, motion design, campaign, advertising, out of home. So it's like a bunch of skill sets and a bunch of agencies come together to kind of pull that off. It's good fun. I'm loving Industry Week, I have to say, and I'm not just saying that because it's easy, but I think the facilities are amazing. The fact that you've done this week of talks is just brilliant, and the fact that the students are really embracing it, because I've seen it before where they don't always come, shall we say. So I think you've got a great bunch of people, great facilities. I did a BTEC, so I've got a real fondness for starting creativity at an early age, and I wish that my college was as good as this. And this is my first interaction with Confetti, and I just want to do more stuff. It's great. So I always say to anyone wanting to do a career in design is you've got to be all in. This is not a career, it's not a job. Like my first teacher said, this is not a 9-to-5 job. Are you prepared for that? And it's not about working weekends or working late. It's about being obsessed with a subject so much that there's no barrier, there's no line between work and play. So I might not work late, but I'll be thinking about something all the time. I'll be like the Natural History Museum projects I talked about in my speech. That came to me in a dream. You know, I'm so into it, maybe too much, that creativity comes when you're most relaxed. It doesn't come when you're at your desk. So I think you've got to make a really conscious decision. If you're all in, you can have a wonderful career in design. If not, that's fine. Just do something else, because you'll not make the cut. It's kind of all or nothing. You've got to be creative, right? It's in the job title. So we had stunts where you design a t-shirt with your business card on it, so your contact details, and run into the reception and throw it at someone. Or I had business cards with a 10 pence piece on saying call me, and they're all a bit cheesy, but you've got to do something that gets you noticed. And that could be as simple as just writing a really personal letter. What I get a lot is, dear sir, madam, can I have a job? What we want to hear is, hey Stu, been following you for years, love your work. I did this, which is inspired by that. Can I buy you a coffee and show it you? So you remove all the friction. You're not asking for a job. You're not asking for an hour. You're not even asking for a job interview. You're asking, can I buy you a coffee? And make it as easy as possible to just get 5 minutes with someone you admire and tell them. My career highlight today, I would always go to Premier League, because that's the thing that my mum can understand. But I think really my career highlight was living in Brazil for a year. It was just so unexpected. Never got on an aeroplane till I was 18, and then by 21 I'm living in New York and in Brazil purely because of graphic design. That was a gateway to travel. That year in Brazil transformed my life. I now own a house there. I'm married to a Brazilian. I've got Brazilian identical twins. I speak Portuguese. I go there 3 times a year. It's the biggest impact it's had on my life for good. So that's the beauty of what we do. It can just take you to amazing places. If there was one picture that summed up my spirit, it would be the 7-foot watch, because it's so ridiculous. But it just showed how I was just so obsessed with creating. I don't know, like it's not logical, but it's such a totem of who I am. I think, like, all in, larger than life. I think my work is still like that now. It's kind of brash and big and bold. It got me out of Bolton into art college, into uni, and it just opened up all those doors. And I've just been so open to it every opportunity. Do you want to go and live in Brazil? Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow, brilliant. You just say yes to everything and don't worry about the consequence. And I think that's part of what I wanted to leave the guys with today, is you've got to throw yourself in there. You've got to be brave. You've got to go outside your comfort zone to get yourself where you want to be. No one's going to hand it to you. You've got to, even if you're an introvert, which I actually am, you've got to find a way to become an extrovert when you get a placement or when you have a job interview. You've got to find a way to get your personality across. So the watch is always a reminder of where I came from and how far I've come. Yeah, I think you have to, if you're naturally shy, you've got to create a persona that allows you to perform. And a lot of what we do is performance with clients, with even our team members. You've got to believe in this work so much. Like with a client, you've got to make them feel like this is the best idea in the world and you've got it, right? Because any sign of weakness, they're not going to buy it. So yeah, there's a skill that you learn over time, and a skill you don't learn at college. It's like relationships. How do you build relationships with people and get them to trust you? Almost everyone I know has been affected by a good teacher. It's part of everyone's life. A great teacher inspires you to do something. I had 2 great teachers. One who saved me, who saw this chaos of this really naughty school and protected me from getting expelled or whatever could have happened. And the second one really championed me, and he opened my eyes to design, but he also he turned me on to university. University was not a thing in my family. It was, no one had ever gone. And he actually filled in all the forms and applied for me at Nottingham Trent. And it was called Stuart Gray. I'll never forget what he did for me. And I've been trying to reach out to him for years. I've not managed to find him. But my life has really been determined by these 2 teachers, and I'll never forget that. And I think that's a story that everyone can relate to. So as a graphic designer, the one piece of equipment I can't live without is a pencil. It's not a computer, it's not a Wacom tablet, it's not an iPad. It is the ability to capture my whirling thoughts and make sense of them. And they often happen at the most inconvenient times, like when you're in the shower or when you're asleep, when you're most relaxed and not thinking about work. So I always have a notebook with me everywhere I go, next to my bed, whatever, and I write everything down. And sometimes it's the most useless gobbledygook, and sometimes it's genius, and it's mainly the former. But there are moments where you've tapped into some deep thing inside your brain and unlocks an idea that you could never have thought of in reality. So yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, so one instance of kind of an idea coming when you least expect it was, we were pitching for the Natural History Museum. It was big pressure. I knew we needed this hook to a shorthand for the name, and I'm lying in bed, it's 2 a.m, and it was all about now, right? Going from a museum to being right now, climate activist. And I was like, oh, there's an N in natural, there's an O in history. If only there was a W and it's an M. And I was like, well, what if you turn the museum on its head? If you flip the museum on its head? I was like, oh my God. So I ran out of bed, downstairs, turned the Mac on, Helvetica, types it out, flipped the thing. I was like, it works. It's like, Marina, it works. So I got her up. She's like, that's it. We knew right then, that was it. That was the pitch. We went in, won the pitch against 320 agencies. And that's why I refuse to do timesheets, because you don't get paid for an idea you have at 2 a.m. You only get one go at life, and you only regret the things you don't do. That's my ultimate learning. I've made loads of mistakes. I don't regret any of it. I regret the stuff I didn't do. And I think when you're lying there on your deathbed, you don't want to go, I wish I'd have just said yes to that thing. I wish I'd have rolled the dice. I wish I'd have... Just do it. Just do it and see where it takes you. Especially when you're young, no ties. Just throw yourself into stuff and see where life takes you. And today I talked a lot about seemingly random events that shape your life. You've no idea what will shape your life, but if you don't say yes to it, if you're not brave enough to go for it, then you'll never know. So it's not for everyone, but I recommend it. So it's great. Confetti's open in London. Whitechapel's brilliant as well. Our second office was there. It's a great place. It's edgy, it's creative, it's London, it's old and new, it's brilliant. In fact, that's where the bell was made for Big Ben, in a foundry in Whitechapel. Bit of local knowledge for you. Look, it's good to be in London. It used to be essential. It's not anymore. But the closer you are to agencies, the less barriers you put in between, the better it is. I'm really happy to come, but it's hard, right, to get people from London to other parts of the UK. So being there's only going to help, but the Nottingham space is brilliant as well. And I think we are more national now. It used to be just London. I think there's great agencies popping up everywhere. So I think to have those two hubs is brilliant, and they'll both shine a light on each other. But having the London shines a halo on Nottingham. I think Nottingham's got a great reputation as well. It gives London credibility. So I think it's those two together are great. And I think, I'm biased because I went to Nottingham, but I know it has a great reputation in general. It's a great city and a great university town, and great for graphics. So to have that kind of connective tissue with London is only a good thing.